Today I want to talk about something that I've kind of put on the back burner for like over a week now, but my reasons for this, I'll get into them in a little bit, but just know it's because I was quite frustrated with certain things. Like I said, I'll get into them, but regardless, as you guys can probably tell from the title and probably thumbnail of this video, is that I personally strongly believe that it would be a very poor decision by Treyarch if they were to end the Aether storyline inside DLC 4 for Black Ops 4. And the reason I say this is not because I don't think that the Aether storyline should never end. I do not say that in the slightest, but I just think it would be very disgraceful for the Aether storyline to be ended in such a manner, and I'll get into all my reasons why in a little bit. But for now, I kind of want to explain why exactly I've been quite frustrated with this and why it's taken me a second to actually make this video. And it really has to do with exactly what we're talking about here and how they announced that the Aether storyline was going to end. Because if you guys didn't know, Craig Houston, the lead writer for Zombies, was on live stream last week. He was talking about the new gauntlet that was coming out. Of course, at the time it was Dead of the Night's gauntlet, and some also updates coming to Zombies and all that good stuff. But at the end of that segment, he just mentioned that the Aether storyline was going to be concluded inside DLC 3 and 4, and it was going to be done, and that's kind of what happened. Now, assuming that they are actually telling the truth here and the Aether storyline is definitely going to end inside DLC 4, which I'm not entirely sold on, because considering Craig Houston used the exact same wording, I mean, he used the exact same word, concluding. I mean, if you guys remember back to Garage Crovey, they said to be concluded when Revelations came out, but then Revelations came out and the Aether storyline is still here till this day. But regardless, assuming that everything is true and the Aether storyline is definitely going to end inside DLC 4, I just think it would be what they did was a very poor way of announcing that. I mean, it's just like, why? Why would you announce it in such a way? It's like at the end of the zombie segment of your live stream. I mean, this is a developer update thing, and we're announcing the Aether storyline is going to end at the end of your segment. Not even the end of the live stream itself, because, oh, by the way, the Aether storyline is going to end, and then all of a sudden, Blackout, guys, this is epic new stuff coming to Blackout. Come on, guys, let's go jump into Alcatraz. Just like, what the hell, bro? I mean, is that all the Aether storylines, ending is worth? Just a slight mention at the end of a live stream? I mean, I know I'm kind of being like, oh, that's such a small thing to be upset about, but you have to understand the storyline's been going on for 10 years, and for them just to mention that they're going to end it at the end of a live stream, it just doesn't make sense, because we've seen them do it better in the past. I mean, like when they were lying to us about Revelations being the end of the story. You remember how they built the Revelations as the end of the Aether storyline? I mean, there was a ton of hype built up behind that, and they just made multiple teaser trailers, just trailers themselves, just hyping up Revelations at the end of the Aether storyline, and it worked perfectly well until, the storyline didn't end. But regardless, it's just like, I mean, how'd you go from being able to hype it up so well like you did in Revelations to just a slight mention at the end of a segment of the zombie segment? It's just like a huge fall from grace, and it just feels a little bit disrespectful to the story, which is weird coming from the writers, because you would expect them to be the most respectful to the story, because, they're the ones writing it. But regardless, it's just something that's just really annoyed me for the longest time. But regardless, for me to actually stop getting distracted by that and actually get into my reasons why I think the Aether storyline should not end, and I just want to get into it right away, because I'll get sidetracked by something else again. But regardless, the first reason, and a pretty strong reason, is that how in the actual hell are they planning to actually wrap up this story in just 2 maps time? All we have is DLC 3 and 4, and they're going to wrap up the storyline entirely. No way they are. At least not in a way that is going to be satisfactory to the hardcore Aether storyline followers. I mean, it's just not going to happen. I'm sorry, this storyline has too many loose ends, too many things to be answered, that there's no way they'll give us a satisfactory ending in 2 maps. I just don't see it. I honestly don't see it. And I would be quite frustrated if they just hurry up the ending to the Aether storyline, for they could just, finish it up and move on to Chaos. It's just like, why do it in that manner? I mean, it's just like, why? It just seems like something that I don't see as a possibility where it works. I mean, just think of everything they have to do, because assuming the most likely case is going to still happen and Dr. Monty is going to be the big bad of DLC 4 and we're going to fight him and all that stuff, I mean, how are they going to build Dr. Monty up as a villain in one map, and then all of a sudden we're going to be fighting him in the next map that fast? I mean, it just doesn't seem like it's enough time. I mean, considering how the Aether storyline has always been so slow about how it tells its story, and then all of a sudden, boom, Dr. Monty's evil, we're fighting Dr. Monty now in the Great War. Heck yeah, guys. And then, I mean, there's just like, how are you going to get to point A to point B so fast? I mean, the only way I can think of is that they're going to completely ignoring building Dr. Monty as a villain, and they're just going to say, oh, he's a villain because the Great War Richtofen said so, or something like that. And I really feel like that's what's going to be the case, and I'm going to be so disappointed with how they're going to be handling this. But I don't know. Well, I don't know. It's just something that is just, I don't think is going to be a possibility. Now, another thing, and probably the most frustrating thing to me about if they will end the Aether storyline inside DLC 4 is that think in the maps that we've gotten for the Aether storyline. I mean, the last original map that was not just a bunch of maps stuck together or remakes or remasters of older maps was Gorod Krovi, because Revelations was not an original map. It had one original spot, and that was, I think, Spawn. There might be one more if I'm forgetting, but I think it was just one original spot, and that's it. So I do not count Revelations as an original map. Then, of course, we went and got Zombies Chronicles, but those are remasters, so I don't really count those either because they're just remasters. But then, of course, Black Ops 4 came along, and we got Classified and Blood of the Dead. Blood of the Dead is obviously a remake of Mob of the Dead, and Classified is a remaster of 5. So we have not seen an original map since Gorod Krovi. You guys know when Gorod Krovi came out? Came out all the way back in 2016, July 12th, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was July 12th exactly, and that's when we got Gorod Krovi. And that's been a long time since we've gotten the Aether storyline original map, because we're just getting a bunch of remakes. And if the rumors are true and one of the final 2 maps are going to be Nuketown Remastered, I mean, just get me out, sign me out. I need to sign out of this. I'm done. I'm done with Treyarch Zombies. I'm done with Treyarch as a studio. I don't know. I couldn't ever play their game again if we see a Nuketown as our next map. If we can't even get any original maps to end off this storyline, I made a different video entirely about this that hopefully I'll put on screen right now if you guys want to check out my full rant about this. But regardless, I'm not going to go too much just because I've talked about this past. But I'm just my point is that I really hope that, if they end it now, even if they do give us 2 original maps, I mean, all we've got in our, I guess, remasters, reimagines, or just non-original maps for the last few maps for the Aether storyline. Just think that's a little bit disrespectful to the Aether storyline to end it off on a bunch of remakes and remasters. That's just how I strongly feel about it, and I just don't like it at all. But of course, another reason is I just don't think that they cannot tie up the storyline in 2 maps. I just don't think it's possible. I mean, this is kind of the first reason all over again, but this time I just want to quickly go over a couple questions that I've collected just over, a little bit of time, just over thinking about some questions that we've had for the Aether storyline, and we're just wondering what's going to happen. Let me just quickly go over a couple of them. The giant radios, what's going on there? Giant paper scraps, what's going on there? Is Victor still in the Alcatraz pocket dimension? Did they die there with Richtofen being dead? I mean, what happened with them? I mean, why was the Shironuma radio re-put inside Revelations, except this time, instead of having a male voice, reading off everything, it was a female voice. Why was that the case? And more importantly, in the radios, that seemed like they were setting up something entirely new inside Revelations, where we had some lady we've never really heard of before, and she was talking about how she was looking for the Call of the Dead crew, but then all of a sudden they got lost, but then she started reading a book, and then she got teleported into the Shangri-La, and she was also trapped inside the Shangri-La time loops, and what happened with all that? What's going to go on with all that? Another thing, what happened to the kids in the after Revelations? I mean, I don't know if it's actually important because they're looping it back, but it's a question that, what happened to them, because they did just leave all the kids with Dr. Monty, so, what happened to them? And if we break the cycle, what happens to them now? Because, I mean, a lot of their souls never were given to them, but some souls were. I mean, it's just so many questions. And also, what's up with the Shadow Man in this time of the loop? Because this time, it was cut early and the loop was actually changed, so what's exactly going on with the Shadow Man? Is he going to have some role? Because we know he's not dead in this version of the loop, because he was over there in Blood of the Dead, probably working with Great War Richtofen. I mean, another one is that, what happened, and this one, what happened to the cipher in Revelations where, Dempsey was dying and all the other characters are going to die? He says, if Monty ever found this place, we'd be in and curse word, but regardless, I mean, what's going on with that? What happened to everything? I mean, there's a couple other here that I just realized I don't want to go over just because I have so many questions written down here that I kind of want to read off, but at the same time, it's just way too much. But anyways, guys, my point is that there's just way too much tie up. I just don't think you can. I don't think they could build up. Okay, if I have to do 3 main points right here, I do not like that the Aether storyline would end on a bunch of remakes. Secondly, I just don't think they can answer all the questions that we have, or answer all the questions we have all the questions we have answers for. All the questions we have questions for? Is that how it said? Anyways, regardless, they're not going to be able to answer all our questions. Let's just say it like that. And then, of course, finally, I just don't think they could build up the end of the Aether storyline in just 2 maps. Those are my 3 main points. But last thing I want to mention is just kind of how this is going to affect me personally. Because as for me personally, I just won't have the same passion for the zombies without the Aether storyline. I mean, I'm going to be honest, the reason I even got so much into zombies was never really because of the gameplay. I mean, the gameplay's always been great, but the main reason I ever enjoyed zombies to begin with was because of the Aether storyline. That's how it's always been for me. So without the main thing that made me fall in love with zombies, it's just like, yeah, I don't think I could keep that same passion up. And I'm by far the only one who feels like this. I mean, many people feel like this. I mean, there's even COD Zombies HQ. If you guys watch his most recent video, he said that he's actually going to give up an almost 200,000 subscriber channel just because the Aether storyline's ending. He says his channel's done once Aether storyline is done. They're ending alongside each other. And I don't know how much you guys think a 200,000 subscriber channel is worth, but it's worth a lot. And for him to give it up just because, the Aether storyline's ending, I mean, that just shows you how important the Aether storyline is to so many people that they're going to give up entire channels. Now, of course, I understand where he's coming from, but for me personally, I just like making YouTube videos too much, and whether it's zombie videos or something else entirely, I'd probably always make videos. But one thing I know for certain, without the Aether storyline, I'll never be able to keep my main focus on zombies ever without it. It's just not a reality that exists for me. I just can't. I'm just going to be honest. It's just not going to happen. But anyways, that's all I really gotta say, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about everything I had to say. Do you guys think I'm being an idiot, like I'm sure some people will say, because some people hate the Aether storyline, it seems? Like, they say it's overly complicated, it's been going on for too long, and all that stuff, and I have counter arguments to all of that, but that's not this video. That's a separate video if I ever had to make it. But anyways, that's about it for me, and I'll catch you guys next video or whatever, but laters, guys.